Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of the Wild Story podcast with Nathan and Maria. On this podcast, we talk about all of the crazy stories that people have experienced in the great outdoors. And today, as per usual, we have a pretty great story with you guys. Maria?
All right, so what are the chances that someone could survive a mid-airplane explosion?
0.
Okay, well, there is definitely a chance of survival. In 1971, on Christmas Eve, the 17-year-old girl had just received her high school diploma and she was planning on studying zoology like her two parents. Her name was Julian Kopek. Her and her mom were on a flight going from Lima, Peru to the eastern city of Pucallpa to visit their father, who was working in the Amazonian rainforest. Pretty cool, huh? On their journey, a massive thunderstorm hit where the plane was like hurling. They noticed how the plane went right into a swirl pith of black clouds with like flashes of lightning through the window. Bags from the compartments dropped everywhere. It was described that the people were like screaming and the noise of the motor exploded. It filled the space. Everyone was terrified. I swear this can't be made up. A bolt struck the plane and it broke into pieces right in the midst of the air. How can this even be real? The next thing Kopek knew was that she was in the middle of the sky, still strapped to her seat, except the plane had left. She came to the realization that she was free falling from the plane, but then went unconscious randomly. She woke up finding herself in the middle of the Peruvian rainforest. Surprisingly, she had survived that crash with only a few minor injuries like a concussion, broken collarbone, and a deep gash on her calf. It's insane. Kopek tried to go on a hunt to find her mother, but she was very unsuccessful. As she walked and walked and walked, she found a well. Then she remembered her father's advice that he had given her. He said, "Always follow water downstream. A small stream will flow into a bigger one, and then a bigger one, and an even bigger one. And then finally, you can run to help." After all the trauma her body has been put through, after the fall, she still remembers these small things. What a miracle. Anyways, she followed her heart and began to walk and swim through the river. She spent 4 days in the water trying to get help, but suddenly she came across 3 passengers that were dead. They landed headfirst and were buried with their legs sticking out the sand. Kopek had panicked, thinking it would be her mother, but it wasn't. It would have been extremely traumatizing to see that. Oh my. She didn't. She didn't find her mom, but she did find a bag of sweets, and I guess that served as her only food source for the rest of her days in the forest. I just don't understand how someone could survive off of sweets for so long in the wilderness. Like, how do they get their nutrients?
I have no idea. I think maybe she could have supplemented it with like some other mushrooms or
Like from the forest?
yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Like not all of it is gonna kill you. Most of it probably, but
Now, obviously, a big search in Peru had happened over the plane crash, but because of the density of the forest, aircrafts weren't able to find wreckage from the crash itself, let alone find a person. This happened in 1971, so we gotta keep in mind that technology and like air forces and all of that weren't as advanced as they are now. If this were to happen in like today's day, it definitely would have not been dealt with the way that it was back then. But on Kopek's ninth day of this adventure, she came across a hut and she decided to rest in it until she could feel a bit better to keep on going. She felt weak. She couldn't help but think that she's all alone in the middle of nowhere and that she's eventually going to die. What she's going through is something I personally could not be able to handle. Believe it or not, she heard voices of lodgers. Kopek said that the first man she saw seemed like a complete angel. But those weren't mutual feelings. The men were terrified of Kopek and were not sure if they could trust her or not. She got lucky and they let her stay for another night, but then decided that it would probably be best to hand her in and drive her to a hospital to get treated. She did seem pretty screwed up, so taking her to a hospital was definitely a smart decision. After Kopek got treated, she reunited with her father. She also learned that her mother passed away during the accident. What happened to Kopek was an absolute miracle. I mean, it's crazy. The doctors don't even understand how this works. She was the only sole survivor out of all the people that were on that plane. Finally, she helped the FBI find the missing corpses of people that were on the plane. And it doesn't just end here. Kopek's life after the incident was difficult, terrifying. She became a media scandal. People harassed her and wanted to understand what happened. They'd keep asking her questions, and obviously, in society, not everyone's going to be nice. Some people would say harsh things, and some people's would be too nice that it's too creepy and dangerous for her to be around in public. People didn't always have the nicest things to say, obviously. She had a fear of flying for years after the crash. She couldn't talk about airplanes. She couldn't go on any airplanes. She wouldn't let any of her family members or friends even go on airplanes because she was terrified something like that would happen to them. She lost her mom, so it would only make sense that she would not want people that meant a lot to her to be on flights at this point. Over the time, she eventually got better and went on to study biology in Germany, but then came back to Peru to do some research on mammalogy. She, like I said in the beginning, she wanted to study zoology, which she ended up doing that, but studied in a bigger major in a different city. She wanted to do it in Peru, but ended up going to Germany. Um, then after she got her degree, like I mentioned, she went back to Peru because she loved Peru so much. She kind of was always there with her family, and she felt like it was the right spot for her to be. So she went back and did her research on mammalogy. What do you think? What do you think about all of this?
I don't know. Compared to our other story that we've done over the course of this, I feel like this one is a lot more underwhelming. It's a lot shorter of a time.
I mean, it was only 2 weeks. There's nothing else for me to talk about.
Yeah, no, I know, but like the mental trauma is definitely intense. And being on a plane and when you're the only survivor of a plane crash is like definitely more traumatizing.
Especially that you also lost your mom, right?
That's true. That's true.
Like, I wouldn't go on a plane ever again if this happened to me. I mean, the girl was free falling in the seat.
That's wild. Oh man. And she was 17. Like that's our age. Like imagine being lost in the Amazonian rainforest for 2 weeks without any food or water.
I wouldn't survive. I mean,
I would be dead for sure. And
you probably know that in the Amazonian rainforest, there's a lot of species that are not have not been discovered and that are very dangerous. So, what's really crazy to me is how come she didn't come and how come she didn't have any interactions of those species at all? How come she didn't get hurt by one of them? Unless maybe from all the trauma she went through, she probably forgot.
I mean, you have to think about like the Amazonian rainforest. Have you ever heard like how come you don't wonder why there aren't more grizzly bear attacks or shark attacks, right? Like the
Yeah.
chances of you like doing so many more dangerous things are so much higher than you getting attacked by a shark or a bear, right? Like
Yeah.
you can probably count the number of like great white shark attacks happening in the last 10 years in like 100, maybe 200, right? And
Yeah.
that's a big number. I'm not saying that that's not a big number, but in the 8 billion people in the world, right? 200 were attacked by sharks in the last 20 years. Those are really good odds.
Yeah.
Right? So really it's a lot of animals avoid us too, and they would have to be really desperate for food
in order to like
in
jump
order
at a
to
human.
really, really go after us, especially in the Amazonian rainforest. Like you have jaguars, you have other things, but they're scarcer and scarcer because of human activity. And yeah, I personally, I feel like the chances of getting attacked by an animal that's like, no animal is out for blood. Every animal is out to survive.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good way to look at it, Nathan. So, what is a part of the story that really shocked you?
I mean, it's always the beginning, isn't it? Like surviving from a plane crash that where it shattered. Like the plane shattered. It did not like fall from the sky. It like exploded. So
Mid-air.
not only did she survive the blast, she also survived the fall from wherever the plane's like cruising altitude was, and just a seat on a plane. And then not only did she survive, she was the only survivor, and then managed to get out of the extremely remote place that she was in.
Yeah.
Like it's almost an impossibility.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, I also mentioned in the story while I was talking, the doctors don't know what happened or how that could have been possible. Like, obviously, maybe like with today's advancements in the medical field, they would have had more tests and stuff like that run to try and figure out what could have happened or how this could have been possible. But in the 1970s, you wouldn't think medical care was that advanced, right?
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to our first category. What's our ouchies for today?
What do you think?
6.
6.
6.
Why do you say 6?
Because it's 2 weeks and she lived.
2 weeks, but that's like insane amount of time to be in a forest by yourself with no food.
Okay, kind of. But like,
It compares nothing to our last episode.
yeah. Because, okay, think about it this way. Our last one, guy was lost at sea for over a year. We gave that like an 8 or a 9.
Yeah.
Right? In comparison.
I would
right?
give this a 7.
7. Okay. Okay, I can see a 7. I can see a 7. I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Because she got out. Yes, she lost her mom. But like, that happens. That sounds so bad. It's not supposed to sound that bad. But I don't know. It's kind of to be expected. I don't think she was supposed to live, and then she did, and that can be called a miracle.
That can be called a miracle. Okay, well, now I'm going to test you to see if you were listening or not, or if I just bored you out.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to ask you 3 questions and we're going to see if you can answer.
Oh God.
Where was Julianne and her mom on a flight going to?
Oh crap. They were flying over Peru.
Yeah.
Were they going to somewhere? I think there's like Lima, Peru, or something.
They were going from Lima, Peru, but to where?
New York City.
It was in the eastern city of Pucallpa.
Oh, there's no way that I would have remembered that.
All
They
right.
were going somewhere. I figured they were just going home. They seem very like New Yorkers-y.
New Yorkers?
New Yorkers-y.
Good guess. What are the 3 minor injuries that Kopek suffered from after the crash?
There was a gash on her thigh.
Mm-hmm.
I think she had like a wound on her stomach, and like her ankle was rolled or something.
It was a gash on her thigh, a concussion, and a broken collarbone.
My next one was gonna be head trauma.
Which?
In all fairness.
Okay.
In all fairness.
Okay.
I get 2 out of 3 points for that one.
2 out of 3?
2 out of 3. I don't think I would have gotten broken collarbone.
Okay.
Because I've only like known like one person who's had one, so it doesn't like feel like a real injury, even though it's like a totally valid injury.
How do you even break your
I
collarbone?
have no idea.
Wait.
I don't have no idea.
I should look into that next.
The dark web.
Okay. And the last question. What was Kopek's father's advice?
If you go down the river, then
Mhm.
the river will get wider and wider until you eventually reach some sort of place where you can go and run for help.
spot on.
Exactly. See,
Good
guys, I
job.
listen. I'm a listener, not a
Ye-
talker.
You're
I-
very much a listener.
I only listen.
Okay, well, that's all we have for you guys today. See you.